Hello, friends. Today I thought I would do a reading on our current situation with the COVID-19 pandemic. It's July 8th, 2020, and we're 4 months into this at this point. And I was just curious to see what the cards have to say about where we're at this point. So I chose a standard 3 card spread, past, present, future, that can give us some kind of an idea of what's going on and primarily where we're at right now. And usually the future card is about how to move forward. So we've got the Seven of Cups upright, the Six of Swords reversed, and the Fool card. Now the Suit of Cups is about everything that has to do with our emotions, matters of the heart, and everything that comes from within. It's our inner life. And in the traditional Rider-Waite deck, this is the card of making hard choices, decisions. We have agency in our lives to make decisions, and the choices here vary from intellectual pursuits, spiritual pursuits, seeking power and fame, focusing maybe a little too much on the material plane and being a consumer and just engaging in mindless consumerism, just buying stuff all the time. So there are seven here. I'm not going to get into all of them, but that's basically what this card signifies, is being at a place where choices are being made. And in terms of the pandemic, this is the past card where we've come in it, and so we've made choices in the past that have brought us to where we are here today. And I want to look at another card within the Thoth deck, and the Thoth is a slightly different system than Rider-Waite based cards, and the Seven of Cups in the Thoth deck is debauch, which, aside from overindulging in sex, drugs, alcohol, whatever, I think that we can look at debauch in a broader sense with regards to excessive indulgence. And as a human race, we've certainly been doing that. And this card just makes me think of like oozing slime, and it's just not good. Whatever's happening here, there's just this unhealthy, possibly diseased slime coming from these cups. And so debauch is something that is interesting to think about in terms of the past, because as a human race, we know that we have not been doing very well. We've been exploiting Mother Earth, exploiting each other, and it hasn't been healthy for the planet, and it has not been healthy for us. And I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that the virus crossed the animal-human barrier through unsanitary and unethical exploitation of different kinds of meats that here in North America we wouldn't necessarily eat, and we don't even understand it. I don't know if it's true, but we do know that humans don't always make the right choices, and where the pandemic is concerned, obviously we haven't made some good choices, and that's brought us to where we are now. And that's how I see this card. I have to also, this other deck that I really enjoy is the Osho Zen card, which is more Buddhist based, Zen meditation, spiritual. And the Seven of Cups in this card is called projections. So it still relates to the illusions that are going on here in the decisions that we make. We may have made our decisions based on some ideal that was unrealistic and unhealthy in some way. And projection means when our thought processes and emotions come from a place of unhealed trauma within ourselves, we project those thoughts and emotions onto other people and other situations, believing them to be true, and that those situations and people are the cause of these thoughts and emotions, when really it's coming from us. We're projecting illusions onto each other. And so I think it relates to how we've been behaving in the past, definitely. With regards to the Osho, or the Thoth deck with debauch, I just wanted to mention this book here that I've been using for many, many years by Gerd Ziegler. I don't know if you can see it, but this book was written primarily to help interpret the Thoth tarot deck, which can be quite opaque. And it's called Mirror of the Soul. And I've been using this book for years, no matter what tarot deck I'm using, because this book speaks often on a more spiritual plane or a more universal, etheric plane. And there are beautiful affirmations and questions and indications, questions. For example, this affirmation here: I am a radiant being filled with light and love. And that's for the Queen of Wands. It's a beautiful book. So it's definitely worth having in your collection if you are an enthusiastic tarot person like I am. So when we get to the present, where we're at right now, we have the Six of Swords in reverse. Swords is about, the sword suit is about thought processes, activity of the mind. We're talking about the intellect, the thought processes, reasoning, mental energy, and concerned with justice, truth, ethical principles, communication, and so on. So in the upright position, this card signifies having found mental clarity and realizing that we need to get out of a situation that wasn't serving our highest good. It's so in the case of, let's say, the obvious example is a relationship that's not working anymore, and it might have been an abusive relationship, and we just need to get out. So this person is leaving in the upright position. In the traditional Rider-Waite, it's a ferryman taking what looks like a mother and child to a better place, a calmer place on the horizon. They're coming out of rough waters, turbulent times, and going towards something better. This is a decision that was arrived at through the thought processes and the other processes that we use to decide when we need to do something. So in this card, we have the card is reversed. This is a really interesting card because the ferryman isn't ferrying anyone. He's kind of poling across this water. This is rough water here. But in reverse, we have somebody who's not really going anywhere. They seem kind of stuck and just hanging on for dear life. So the movement isn't happening. There's a stuckness happening there. And a lack of clarity, perhaps, disharmony. And I really see that happening in terms of the pandemic right now, that we're still in the middle of it. We're not doing too badly in Canada, but there's still risk out there. Scientists are working really hard to try and find a cure or a vaccine or a solution. There are different theories. This is a transition period where we're at right now, but we don't seem to be moving very quickly. Now, I'm missing the card right now. Oh, yes. In the Osho Zen card, it's called burden. And that definitely relates to the traditional Rider-Waite card here, where this person is taking care of these people, taking care of a mother and child and taking them to a better place. They're not rowing the boat. They're being sort of rescued and taken somewhere. So there's a certain burden or a feeling of service here. And in the Osho Zen card, we see this person is struggling because they have someone more affluent riding on their back. And on top of that person is a rooster. And I'm not entirely sure what that means. But we have a movement that is burdensome and not happening very easily at this time. And I just wanted to bring this up because the Osho Zen Tarot refers to this as burden. And I see this happening. In the Thoth deck, the Six of Swords is called science, which I've always thought is quite interesting, but even more so within the context of this pandemic. Science is working really hard to try and figure a quick way out of this pandemic through cures for people who are already sick and vaccines and so on. So this seems to really make sense to me. Science is having a lot of fits and starts, a lot of trouble. We're not there yet. We're just not there yet. So I think where we're at now is we're going to be in this position for a little while longer because it's a pretty serious and complex thing that requires a lot of cooperation as well from a lot of different agencies and countries as well with each other and citizens with each other. We know that people have differing thoughts on wearing masks, on social distancing. Some people are not. There's fatigue happening right now, pandemic fatigue. People are loosening their usual way of being cautious. Stores are starting to open up. So cooperation is really important. Okay, I'm back. I had to pause the video for a moment while another train went by. So the key words for this card here are transition, but being in reverse, there is disharmony here, difficulty. The whole world seems, it's like up is down and down is up. Everything is just so weird right now, and that's what we're going through. And this disharmony, we're definitely seeing it across the border and even in Canada here. People are not in agreement with certain things, and certainly some of the mandatory mask wearing laws in some municipalities is causing a lot of conflict, especially with people who don't want to comply where it comes to rules of wearing a mask, having to wear a mask to go into a store. And if you don't want to wear a mask, then these stores don't have to let you in or serve you. So we need to be more together on this and focus on harmony and working together rather than disharmony and being all over the map on how to move forward. So the future card is the Fool card. And people tend to look at the word fool and think of the stereotypical someone who's being an idiot or stupid or something like that. But in the tarot, the Fool card has to do with unlimited potential. There's not even a number, it's the 0 card. So it has to do with the unknown, with faith and optimism, and taking a leap of faith and moving forward. Having faith and belief that there is something good coming down the line if we just take the step to move forward and do something. So I find it interesting that the future card is the Fool card, which is essentially the unknown. And I want to look at the Osho Zen card here, which is, this is similar to the traditional Rider-Waite imagery of this person just la la la, just walking off the cliff and not having a care in the world because they believe, they have faith that something great is in store in the future. And do I have another Fool card? No. So yeah, there's also risk involved. Obviously, if you're going to walk off a cliff without watching where you're going, there is risk. But more than anything, there's hope and faith that that we're going to get there. We are going to get there. You see, there's a little baby. I don't know if you can see this. There's a baby inside of a flower. I don't think it's a lotus flower, but this is a birth. This is something new beginning. And there's the sun shining and this butterfly here showing us that that we are going to come out of this. Butterflies spend a certain period of time before they are butterflies in a chrysalis. And then when the time is right, they come out as in a new form, completely different than the form they had before when they were in the chrysalis and before that. So the Fool is an incredibly wonderful card in the not the Druid craft, but in the Wildwood Tarot, the Fool is called the Wanderer, and I just love that. I remember I received that deck just before I left for a 1 month trip to Mexico for my 60th birthday. My plan was to wander around the Yucatan Peninsula with just a backpack and to stay in hostels. And I got that deck just a few days before I left, and I shuffled it and pulled a card, and wouldn't you know it, the card that came out was the Wanderer, which is the Fool in all other decks. But yeah, so we know that as a species, as humans, we have not been making the best decisions with regards to our health and the planet. Currently, we know that we're a little bit stuck. We're in transition, but everything seems upside down. There's difficulty, there's disharmony, there's lack of clarity right now. But we will get there. And there is risk. But if we cooperate, work with each other, do the right thing, look out for each other. This is not a, every man for himself or herself kind of situation. This is where we need to look out for each other, and we can only really get through this if we work well together. And stepping into the unknown with all the risks is a beautiful thing. And yeah, so that's what these cards are saying today about the pandemic as we are sitting here in the summertime in our 4th month. And things are starting to open up. I had to go downtown yesterday for the very first time to pick something up, and that was an interesting experience. I saw a woman she was walking across the street, crossing at the light, and she was wearing a face shield and blue surgical gloves. And she was just crossing the street wearing all of her gear, and it stopped me in my tracks. It's it's a very weird thing to see when you're just wandering around doing errands. And so that's where we're at. And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Be well, and please stay safe.